Hi, I'm Christian Griffin, and I'm going to walk you through how to set up and play Meridian. We're going to follow along with the instructions summary on the last 2 pages of the rulebook. As you can see, I've put all my cards in sleeves. That's generally a good idea if you think you're going to play the game a lot, to keep the cards in good shape. First thing you do after you tell your players about what Meridian is about by reading or paraphrasing the introduction in the rulebook is to separate out the role cards. These contain the summary of the rules for each particular player so that they don't have to reference the rulebook in play. They just have it right there in front of them. You are probably going to be the guide, since you watch this video and know how to play. And one player will be picking one of the arcs for a journeyer. If this is your first game, I suggest playing the Defiance journeyer. That's the easiest one to explain and get into. So you get the guide roll cards. One person is the journeyer, and that leaves the others with touch cards, they only get 1 card each. The next thing we'll do is to take out the companion cards. There are 5 sets of 3 cards for those as well. During the game, the touches can trade in their role as touches for a companion, so they become a permanent character that travels along with the journeyer. It's a good idea, therefore, to keep these cards within reach of the touches. And that's it. Now you're all set up. So we get to the prelude. This is where the actual game begins. Each journeyer arc has a prelude card. There are a number of questions on there that you will answer to create your character. And the journeyer can get as much input from the other players as they like. Once you're done making your character, you can put that card aside. You won't need it anymore. And you can switch to the progression card. This is the one they're going to use during the game. At this point, you can play a prelude scene to establish the regular day and the life of the character, or you can go towards transitioning right into the journey to Meridian if you feel like the questions have given you enough to work with. Now you're going to take up the cadence cards, and depending on the mood, shuffle 2 or 3 of them together. If this is your first game, I'd usually take out the Dread and Doubt set, which is the one with the brown background. But if your game turns out a little darker, then you can include it. We're going to put it away for now and shuffle the cadences together. I happen to be really fast at shuffling cards. The guide now selects the first locale that the journeyer is going to visit. There are a lot of locales in the box, so it might be a little intimidating. I suggest just sticking with the Capricious Festival locales at first. All of the locales have 2 cards each, one with the description, laws, and notes, and one that comes in later with the nexus and the progressions. And you can see there the set they belong to at the bottom of the first card. So just pick the Capricious Festival, and now you're going to play through the transition into Meridian. Now, this will depend on where the character transitions from and the vibe that you have established. If you're in an alleyway, you might end up on the market. If you're in the forest, you might end up in the Midnight Conservatory or the Ferocious Feast. Once the guide and the journey have played through this little transition scene together, you're going to present them with the first location. You're going to read the description and the 3 laws of reality that govern this place. This is a step you're going to repeat at every place they go to. Once you've read that, you can place the card in the middle of the table so that everybody can read the laws. They're all going to follow them. And so that the touches can refer to the notes at the bottom. There are certain names and colors and smells and so on that they can use. The roll cards for the touches actually lay out that they each have a hand of 3 cadence cards. So if you haven't each given them 3 cards from the deck that you shuffled together earlier, now is a good time to do so. They're going to need these to play through the locale. Once you've each given them the 3 cards and everybody's ready, the journeyer can start exploring the locale. They just play their character interacting with the place, and you, the guide, are responsible for answering any questions or just controlling the environment and telling them what they see and smell and so on. Now, the touches will try to weave their cadences into this. They use them to play characters that they introduce or provide little fleeting moments of beauty or quirky weirdness. When they do so, they place the cadence face up on the table and draw a new one to replenish their hand. You keep playing the scene, exploring the place, playing with the laws, and the touches will continue to play their cadences and replenish the hand afterwards until there are exactly 3 cadences on the table. When that's the case, it's time for the journeyer to meet the nexus of the locale. The nexus is outlined on the second card of the locale, and as the guide, it's going to be your job to play them in interaction with the journeyer. In order to move on from this locale to the next one, the journeyer will have to choose a progression. There are 2 listed on the card with the nexus, with these 2 symbols. There's also a third symbol, the sun symbol, that's shown on the cards, which matches the progression that the journeyer has themselves. They can now pick any progression that has a matching symbol on the table. So you have 2 suns here and a scale, which means the journeyer can either choose their own progression or they can choose the scale progression from the card. Let's say the journeyer chooses the scale progression, in this case from the Moonlight Market, meaning they trade away one of the most prized possessions. You play out what that means with the journeyer player, then the journeyer player keeps the card with the matching symbol and discards the other 2. Now the guide describes how the journeyer gets from this locale to the next one. And once they arrive there, you once again read the description, read the laws, and then play through the locale with the touches contributing the secondary characters and moments from the cadences. You do this several times, 3 to 5 times, however time permits. And each time it ends with the progression and the journeyer picking one of the 3 cadences on the table and adding it to the stack that they're building up called the finale stack. Now the choices that they have might be different because there are different symbols on the table. Sometimes they can use their own progression, sometimes they cannot. Whichever they choose, they pick it up and they add it to their finale stack and then discard the rest and you move on to the next place. Now one thing that can and hopefully will happen is that as the cadences are played and the touches make up characters, one of them might say, hey, that's a really cool character we made up. I really want to play that one as a companion. So they will trade their touch card for one of the 5 companion cards, depending on how they feel the character fits into the story. So they trade their touch card away, and they gain these 3 cards. The role card that tells them what this kind of companion is all about, a progression they can use instead of the journeyer at one of the future locations, and a finale card that tells them what to do during the finale. They no longer have a hand of cadence cards, so they have to give those up. Now there's only 1 touch left to play all 3 cadences at each locale. Now you keep playing with the new companion being a constant character on this and all future locales. Let's say at this locale, the companion, once the nexus shows up, when 3 cards are played, wants to use their progression. It also has a sun symbol, just like the journeyers. So they say, hold on, I'm going to actually be the one who's moving us to the next place. So in this case, they will keep the card instead of the journeyer. And then you discard the other 2, just as normal. Only that the companion can only do this once during the game. Now, we've played through 4 locales, so let's say we're ready to finish this journey. An arc has come up, and we're ready to conclude. Except for the touches, everybody has a finale card that tells them exactly what to do during the finale. The journeyer has a choice to make. They risk something. The Defiance journeyer risks never being able to go back to Meridian or not making it back home. Once they've made this choice, everybody follows their card. In general, for this seeker, let's say the card says, if the journeyer has not forgiven you, you add it to their finale stack. If they have forgiven you, you discard the card. Let's say in roleplay, it turns out they've forgiven them, so we discard it. The guide says you add a card, a random card to the stack. The journeyer card says you do so. And the guide card also says every touch should add a card to the stack. So we do that. Now we have a full stack. And in order to resolve whether the risk comes to pass that the journey has chosen, we will separate out all the sun symbols. We count them up. In this case, it's 3. Then we compare that to the number of locales that the journeyer has visited. If it's equal to or more, then the risk comes to pass. However, in this case, it does not. He only had 3 symbols and visited 4 locales, so they're safe. They will be able to return to Meridian and go home. Go home first and return to Meridian later. And then you play one more scene to conclude the journey that shows how the journeyer fits in back home, how they've changed. Maybe their relationship with their family has changed, or maybe they've learned something. And then you finish the game and your journey is done. And that's how you play Meridian. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments or write me an email or get in touch with me on Google+. And I hope you very much enjoy the game. Thanks and bye.